Hey guys, I've written 11 novels. Let's tier rank the first lines because most of them suck. Hi guys. So today's video is going to be pretty fun. It's inspired by two videos, which I will link in the description. The first is Katie Ann Writes' video, and the second is Kate's book dates video. They were really fun, so I thought I would give this a shot for my books. If you're new to this channel, I have written a lot of books. I have written in full 11 books, but you can probably tell from the images on screen that there are a lot more than 11 books on screen. And that's because I've included some of my quote unquote books, which I talked about in my really old video talking about all my novels, even though no one asked video, where when I first started writing, I was 12. And in the summer when I started writing, so the summer of 2014, I wrote 3 quote unquote books. I wanted them to be novels, but they weren't long enough to be novels. They're like novella length, so about like 20 or so thousand words. And I've included them in this video. They're Water, Hemlock, The Treated, and The Dreamer. So I'm including them just because they were like an important part of my writing journey. And I feel like you can see like the full arc of my writing journey if I include them. But technically my first novel was Perks and Drawbacks, which you can see on screen. So I've made all the covers that you can see. I will link every video where I made the covers because for a majority of them, I do have a YouTube video out on that. But let's jump right in with the tier ranking. So obviously I have 4 tiers. I have Please Stop, which is the green one at the bottom, Exceedingly Average, I'd Keep Reading, and Genius, obvi, at the top as like, you know, the best one. So we're going to dive into it chronologically, and let's jump into the first project, which is going to be the first project I ever wrote, which is called Water Hemlock. So yeah, Water Hemlock is a really stupid It was the first thing I ever wrote. So I wrote it when I was in grade 7. I was 12, and this is what it's about. Sophie Adams is a gifted assassin. An orphan who was indicted into a training camp for prospective killers, Sophie should be capable of killing anyone, yet can hardly bring herself to harm an animal. That is until Director Johnson, her ruthless supervisor, tasks her with a mission to locate and kill a man. And the consequences are grave. If she fails, both she and her target will be taken out for good. So this is a young adult dystopian novella. Like I said, it's around 10,000 words in length. I thought it was like very brand new, like a unique idea. So anyway, the first sentence of that, which I will pop the first sentences on screen so you can read them and laugh at me yourself, is I sit alone in the dim corridor, waiting for Elliot to arrive. You know, it's not like it's bad. I personally wouldn't keep reading. So I'm just going to put it in exceedingly average because, like, you know, it's fine. I am not against it. It's not wordy. It's not poorly written. It's just like, so what? Like, who cares that you sit in a dim corridor? I will give myself the credit for the adjective dim. Like 12-year-old Rachel, you in grade 7, you were killing it. So the next project that I wrote was The Dreamer, which is also young adult dystopian. It's another novella. It's around 13,000 words. I wrote it again when I was 12, like immediately after I wrote Water Hemlock, which for a long time I was calling Sophie and Jake, if you are more familiar with that title for some reason. And so yeah, this one is about 18-year-old Drew is a dreamer, a human mutation whose dreams are deadly. After encountering a vicious group of rogue siblings whose parents were murdered by a dreamer, Drew goes on the run, but not before falling in love with Lake. That's his name. She doesn't fall in love with a body of water. He's a human, and he's part of the group trying to kill her. This project is like the one that I'm the most ashamed of. You know, it's fine. It's fine. This is the project over here. Where's the cover? Oh, the cover's nice. I did a good job on the cover. This is The Dreamer. The first sentence of The Dreamer is, the air's musty and humid in this ridiculously small trash bin my body's morphed into. I can't even read it. Just please stop. Like, immediately no. I can't even get into the critique. Like, it's wordy. The air's musty. What a weird time to use a contraction. I knew this first sentence wasn't very good when I wrote it, and obviously I was 12. Like, I'm not making fun of 12-year-olds who write. I'm making fun of myself. Okay, if you're 12 and you're a writer, I'm proud of you. For this, I knew that it was bad because I had written several drafts of this project, like in like 2 weeks. I wrote several drafts of it. Like on the third draft, which I think was the final draft, I changed the first sentence. Like it was one of the first things I wanted to change because I immediately knew that I didn't like it. It was too wordy. So for fairness, I kept it the original because everything else is the original, except for one of the projects, which I'll get into. So the next project is The Treated, which is, of course, you guessed it, another young adult dystopian novella. It's like 14,000 words. And The Treated is this one over here. This is actually the original book cover, this one that I'm kind of holding up, that I made for it back when I first started getting into book covers. I think that year, I think it must have been 2014 or 2015 when I made this book cover. Yeah, you can see the difference. I've improved a lot, but I like this one. That's why I never remade it, because I thought it was fine. This is the summary. 18-year-old Meg is not one of the treated. In fact, she evades the procedure that strips you of your smile for good, because she's one of the rare ones. A Ratus, someone equally resistant to both the cold and warm. This just sounds like Divergent, which is funny because I never read Divergent. Anyway, after being betrayed by her best friend, she narrowly escapes the city and meets Holden, a young man. We should revise that. Meets Holden, the most irritating freaking character I've ever written in my life, who also evaded the treatment. With a capital T, the treatment. And together, they set out to break norms and conquer their fears. Oh, geez. Okay, the first sentence is, the treated are separated into two categories, Siren and Torrid. Oh my goodness. I hate when stories start with dialogue. It's a personal thing for me, and I'm sure that there's going to be a story that starts with dialogue that I like. And I wrote several projects that started with dialogue, and I don't like it. It's too like in the action for me. I don't know. If there's one that you really like that starts with dialogue, you let me know, because obviously I'm down to have my mind changed. But no, I don't like when, no, please stop. I don't like when stories start with dialogue because I feel isolated and I don't know what's going on. It's just personal preference. So we're gonna move on to the next project, which is Perks and Drawbacks. Oh geez. No, you know how I said I was the most ashamed of The Dreamer? It's a lie. I'm the most ashamed of this book. This was my first novel. I shouldn't be mean to it because I was really proud of it, but I'm not proud of it anymore. So I wrote this when I was 12, and then I think I finished it when I was, I don't know. I think I finished it when I was 12. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It was 45,000 words, a young adult contemporary, and this is what it's about. 17-year-old Star Miller is the new kid, again. After moving to a new school 3 months before graduation, she isn't expecting to make a friend in anyone, especially not a ragtag group comprised of a rainbow van driving hippie, creeper boot wearing goth. Wow, the amount of specificity. Oh, geez. Math genius, and least of all, the group's leader, brooding resident asshole Gage. I was not expecting that description. Okay. She's certainly not expecting to fall in love with him either. This is the summary I think I wrote when I was that age. I must have been 13 or 12, or I don't remember when I wrote that. This is basically like cringe Gen Z Mean Girls, like just cringe version. So anyway, this is the first sentence. So this is how it works, Kat starts, while pointing to a small group of kids hovering over keyboards. Once again, please stop, because I hate when books start with dialogue. Again, it's a me thing. I just don't like it. So the next book is Fostered, which you guys would know of because I don't stop talking about it on my channel. But Fostered is a young adult dystopian novel. It's about 85,000 words. Actually, I thought it was 87. I don't know why I have it as 85. But anyway, I wrote this when I was 13. And yeah, this is my heart and soul. It started an era which I have not ended. That's been going on for nearly 10 years. It's kind of disturbing. But anyway, the summary is, in a society where children who've committed crimes are sent to behavioral detention centers, 15-year-old Reeve is on the run, having spent 2 years in a home after being accused of murdering her sister, which, you know, to interrupt myself, I love I love that 13-year-old Rachel is already so on brand for me. Like, we love that the very first, like, major character conflict I ever gave a character was like, oh, oopsie, I might have murdered my sister. She narrowly escapes during a fiery accident she may or may not have caused, and severs her connections with her allies along with her memory. Now, a year later, she forms an alliance with a group of young fugitives, tender-hearted Foster, 6-year-old Essie, and their irate leader, Harrison, who's suspicious of her motives and lets her know it. All seems in place until she finds out a team of chasers are searching for her to prosecute her for instigating the accident that left several dead. Unable to remember anything that happened during the accident, she suspects that maybe all things don't point to her. With the help of her new friend, she sets out to discover the answer to one question: what really happened that night? Fostered is my baby. I have an entire video going over this entire series that ended up turning into like 10 books, so it's kind of technically like 14 projects. It was a lot. Anyway, so I'll link it in the description. It's like an hour-long like feature film. It was like the start of an era. With that said, that doesn't mean the era had to start off well. So the first sentence is, with my arms outstretched, I ready myself for the fall I'm in for. You know what? This is not a bad line. Again, it's exceedingly average. It's like the Water Hemlock line. Like, it's not bad, but like, do I care? No. I also never liked this line from the beginning. I commend 13-year-old Rachel. I had like self-awareness. I could self-critique at that age. I knew it wasn't a great line, but I just didn't really know where else like to start it or what else to do with the line. So yeah, it's not a great line. Like, I don't care that you're falling and that you're putting your arms out. Like, I want a better hook than that. But whatever. I'm giving Foster a pass because obviously I still write this series. So the next book that I want to talk about is This Is Where the End Starts, which is young adult contemporary at 63,000 words. I wrote it when I was 13. Again, I wrote everything when I was 13. If you're ever wondering, oh, when did Rachel write that? I was probably 13 in grade 8 and much cooler than I am now. The project is about 17-year-old Quinn is a writer. When her character comes to life, she thinks this is the worst of her problems until she starts falling in love with him. This is the first line. He grunted, an emotion of amusement and hostility. The line is in italics because it's not actually like the first line of the book. The first line of the book, This Is Where the End Starts, is the first line or like a line from a scene that character is writing. I don't usually write writer characters, but for some reason Quinn was a writer and I was like, let me just like be super fancy and like writeception this line and make it like her writing is my writing. That's why it functions the same IMO as dialogue, which is why it's going down here. I wish I had had a different line, or if I could ooh, that could be a new video, revising all the first lines. That could be fun. Look out for that. So let's talk about Hunted, which is Fostered book 2. It's this purple book over here. This is a really fun book because, again, I wrote it when I was 13. I wrote literally 600,000 words in that 1 year. I was in grade 8. I don't understand. So this is what happens when you're an undiagnosed autistic child and you find your hyperfixation, your extreme special interest that you never let go of. The summary for this is Reeve, Harrison, and Foster have finally reunited after months of separation, only to realize they aren't in the clear. Now being hunted by a vicious group of agents led by enigmatic Loden. I love that description. I wrote it like a long time ago for a video and it still makes me laugh. They're truly tested on what it means to stick together. So the first line is, it's been a month since I've heard anything. It's not bad. Again, it's exceedingly average. I feel bad. It's not that I hate my first lines. I actually think I have excellent first lines, not in my novels. If I could show you the first lines of my short stories, all of them would be in the I'd keep reading or Genius hobby section, not to like sound egotistical, but because I really like my short story first lines, but I can't share those until maybe my collection is published. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not being mean to myself. These lines aren't that interesting. I mean, they're fine. Again, it's been a month since I've heard anything. Okay, since what? I guess if you're reading from the sequel, like, because this is the sequel of Fostered, that might interest you, but like, I don't know. It's not that interesting to me. Let's talk about book 3 of Fostered, which is called Resisted. It's actually not on the screen. I have to get it. Okay, I just had to add it into the thing because I forgot to put it in. I guess because I lost the original file of this book cover, so you can see it's like a scan and it looks a little wonky, but whatever. It's gonna function the same way. I wrote this when I was 13 and 14 when I was transitioning in between elementary and high school. It's young adult dystopian. Oh, did I mention the word count of Hunted? Hunted, which was book 2, is 90,000 words. It's not 90,000. I thought it was 94,000. I don't know why I wrote down these word counts wrong. Anyway, book 3 is YA dystopian. Is around 197,000 words, so around 200,000. But yeah, like I said, wrote it around 13, 14. It is about, after being captured by Lonan's team, Reeve, Harrison, and Foster cut a deal to work with him in exchange for a criminal pardon. So the first sentence is, the gun feels cold cupped in my hand, my fingers shaking at the trigger. Okay, so this is the first one that I am going to put like not in like a mean spot. I'm going to put it in I keep reading. Now, does that mean that I like it? Not necessarily. I mean, it's fine. Like, it's not like the most interesting hook, but I think it is interesting enough. Like, I would want to figure out, what is happening? Like, who's this character? Why is she holding a gun? And why is she like so afraid? And like I like the description of like the fact that the gun is cold. It's a weirdly phrased sentence, maybe a little bit, but I'd keep reading. It's not bad. It's not bad. So let's talk about I'm Disappointed, which is young adult contemporary. It's around 83,000 words after the revision. It had been revised a lot of times. At one point, this book was 120,000 words long. I wrote this when I was 14 in grade 9, and the summary is, Struggling with an alcohol addiction, 17-year-old Clifford has determined himself a disappointment to his parents and a total social outcast until he befriends a new girl at school, which makes it sound so lame, but that's literally the plot. So this is I'm Disappointed, one of the various covers of I'm Disappointed. I'm Disappointed has so many book covers. This is the first line of I'm Disappointed. I don't hate writing essays. I just hate writing them on Fridays. It's interesting. I like it. There's a bit of a backstory behind this line. So every single one of the other lines for this video have not been revised. They're like the original lines. But this line is actually not the very first line of I'm Disappointed. The very first line, I'll have to pop up the original phrasing on screen, is, honestly, I think the worst thing a teenager can hear is from their parent or something is I'm disappointed in you. I'll put the exact phrasing on screen. I was in a pitching like contest thing when I was a teenager, and it was a mentorship, and the mentor suggested that I start in a different place. I actually like both lines a lot. The first page of I'm Disappointed is fantastic. It's really good, and I was so happy that I was able to revise it. I think I was 15 or something when I was in this mentorship program. And so I'm happy with actually both lines. I think they're both kind of equally funny. So, I just put the most recent one because, that's the one I would maybe stick with. But, I'd love to hear your opinion on what you like better. It's not like this book is coming out of the trenches. It's going to stay there for a long, long time. Forever. I'd keep reading. I think it's interesting. I'm gonna put it kind of right next to Resisted because it's kind of funny. Like, I kind of want to know what this character is doing. You can get the contemporary vibe from it immediately with the word essays. So the next book that we're gonna talk about is Hollowed, which is book 4 of Fostered, which is over here, the one with the teddy bear. This is young adult, sort of dystopian. It was around 114,000 words, and I wrote it when I was 15. The summary is, after a traumatic event, Reeve, isolated and carrying new and painful demons, struggles to adapt after reuniting with her allies. So the first sentence is, I sleep with a knife. Would I keep reading? Maybe. Again, I don't know if it's interesting, but I might keep reading. It's interesting. Like, why? It could be exceedingly average. For me, this one is like on the brink, like between exceedingly average and I'd keep reading. It depends on the context, but for now, I think, I will put that I will keep reading it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, it's my favorite line. The next book is Splintered, which is book 5 of Fostered, is over here. This is young adult, sort of, maybe. It's sort of dystopian, sort of. And it ended up being around 157,000 words. I wrote this when I was 16, I think in grade 11. And the summary is, the Fostered squad reaches some level of normalcy and turn their focus to rebuilding their splintered relationships until Lonan experiences a mental health crisis. The first sentence is, his hands are shaking. But I don't give shit, so it's going to exceedingly average. It's fine. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't even know whose hands are shaking in this scene, so we're gonna move on because it's not very memorable. The next book is Rewired, and Rewired is adult literary fiction with some dystopian elements, sort of. It's not really literary fiction. I don't know, it's weird. It's bizarre. 78,000 words or so. I wrote it when I was 17, and the summary is, Reeve and friends are not getting along. After months of conflict that has jarred her and her friends apart, Reeve finds solace in a new friendship in Darren until it turns into something more. I actually have a real summary for Rewired 2 somewhere, if you want, if you wanted to hear it. Reeve is unwell, increasingly isolated after a conflict that jolts her team of allies into resentful separation. She struggles to ground herself in the new monotony of HQ life. That is, until she and Darren, an unexpected friend, uncover a harrowing truth. Foster and Lonan have been kidnapped, and only Lonan has gotten out. Together, she and her old allies must come together to find Foster, but perhaps even more difficult, learn how to trust each other again. Rewired, the first line is, time moves slow in the dead weight of silence. I always hated this first line. I don't like it. I wouldn't keep reading. I think it's exceedingly average. I feel bad, but at the same time I don't, because I know that I also didn't like that first line when I wrote it. I thought it was like a little bit dramatic. It's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit touch purple. Like we're getting into lilac territory. It's not extremely purple prose, but maybe a little bit, like a bit of an exaggeration, I think. And I don't really like it all that much. It doesn't catch my attention. We only have 4 projects left, and I literally hate all the lines. Oh, that's not good. Let's talk about Moth Work, which might save us. So Moth Work is adult contemporary general fiction. I don't know, sort of. I have a whole bunch of stuff. I would say like more just adult contemporary, maybe sort of action adventure-y, maybe romance. I don't don't know. It's not really clear. I wrote this when I was 17 to 18. I don't have the word count for some reason in this video. I think it's like around 55,000 words. So the summary is, the cabin isn't haunted, but a dead man owns it, and they know which one. Harrison and Lonan aren't friends, isolated at a cabin that holds more secrets than either would like to admit, all connected to the man who owns the cabin, Lonan's father. The boys are content in keeping these secrets buried. That is, until in an attempt to destroy a dark room close by in the woods, they come across a photograph of an unknown woman whose presence unravels their faux normalcy, until they're both forced to confront their pasts, the unknown woman, and most secretive of all, the nature of their relationship. So Moth Work is one of my more recent projects. So I think I wrote it in 2019, finished it in 2020. The first sentence is, the dark room isn't haunted, but a dead man owns it, and they know which one. That's funny because like the summary kind of gives away the first sentence because I structured it the same way. I like this first sentence. I like this one a lot. I'm going to put this one, maybe genius obvi wasn't the right category because I don't think it's a genius. I was just being facetious. I like it. The dark room isn't haunted, but a dead man owns it and they know which one. I think that's interesting. I like that first sentence. You know, it never used to be like that. The first sentence for a long time might have been, the dark room isn't haunted, but a dead man owns it, so who knows? So either way, it was interesting, but I like that, and they know which one a lot. I like this first sentence from Moth Work. Good job, Rachel. Okay, let's talk about Feeding Habits, which is a book I just finished. This is adult literary fiction with some contemporary genre elements. It's mostly literary fiction, though. I wrote it from ages 18 to 20. I started in 2020. I finished it like last month in 2022. And this is what it's about. Lonan, stuck in a toxic relationship, and Harrison, disappointed by his New York City restart, find themselves on separate trajectories toward inevitable isolation, until Lonan finds purpose in helping out an old friend, and Harrison realizes his dull reboot could be revitalized if he seeks out what or who is missing. So Feeding Habits is this book cover over here. I do have an illustrated version that matches Moth Work. The first sentence is, there are no rules, just remember, Eliza is vegetarian. I love this first line of Feeding Habits. I think it's interesting. It's unexpected. So it's going to stay in genius obvi, even though, you know, I don't know if it's genius. There's a sort of immediacy to the line that I like, that I don't think we've seen yet in the other ones, except maybe for Moth Work. So let's talk about Seventh Virtue. So Seventh Virtue is the book that I'm writing right now. And the context of Seventh Virtue is, I started it obviously last year, 2021. It was always meant to be a personal project, so I didn't care so much about the first line. Anyway, I started it when I was 19 and I'm still currently writing it. And the summary is, Harrison is mid-quarter life crisis. After his alcoholic mother mysteriously vanishes following an altercation he blames on his ex, Lonan, and Lonan's sister, Reeve, he moves to the past with his time traveler roommate, Foster, to relive the week she disappeared. But when he starts having violent nightmares of Lonan that cause unexplainable fevers, he takes Foster's advice and reluctantly seeks a magical intervention from Reeve, now a known con woman who sells fake magical remedies to gullible clientele. But when she later reveals that she and Lonan are members of the Seventh Roost, one of 7 magical families across the United States that coincide with the 7 holy virtues and 7 capital sins, she also reveals another secret. At birth, Lonan's eyes were swapped with the eyes of their virtue, the immortal bird that leads each roost, and her family, led by her toxic ex-fiancé Joel, is holding him captive in hopes of immortalizing their power by permanently fusing him in the 7th virtue. The only way to stop them is to retain Lonan's full humanity before he's made an immortal pawn for life, and to do that, they must track down the 7th virtue and replace its eyes with Lonan's. So yeah, 7th virtue is fun. It's very, very fun. Harrison is not dying, but feels he is. So it's no surprise when his boss informs him that he's fired. I'm not going to put this in the genius section. I think it's okay. One book that I did not include a cover for, now that I'm thinking of it, that I could include in this video is The Sun Only Drowns Us. I haven't made a cover for it. The Sun Only Drowns Us is a book I haven't yet written, but the first line that I'll read to you, so it's not on the screen, but the first line I'll read to you, I wrote when I was 18, but I haven't written the project yet. I've finished the first chapter though this year. This is a summary. The summer the sun turns poisonous, 15-year-old Eva commits to living off the grid with her neighbor Lillian Radaccia and Lillian's children, Charlie, Vera, and Jack. Lillian is convinced the sun is an evil force that drives people to their ultimate deaths. So to protect herself and her family, she swaps her bustling life in a small British Columbia town for a secluded life on a desolate island. They settle at a remote cabin where they only live at night, which Eva is thrilled about at first, having come from an emotionally absent household, though she quickly realizes something's not right when Lillian's only daughter, Vera, turns up dead shortly after her 16th birthday. Coupled with Lillian's increasingly peculiar relationship with her eldest son, Charlie, Eva's new life as an honorary Radaccia child begins having more consequences than benefits. So like I said, I forgot about this project when I was prepping for this video. So if we're going to rank it, I'm going to just make a little text thing that says to Sudu. So the first line of The Sun Only Drowns Us is, "The boat sank in the river the night we buried Vera." I think this is a great first line. I wish I had a cover, but oh well. We're just gonna put it in Genius Obvi. I feel like this is interesting. There's conflict. I think this is way better than the Dreamer's first line. So the last book we're gonna talk about in this video is Houses with Teeth. And now this is a book that I have not yet written, but I have written like a little bit of it, like the first couple thousand words of the first chapter. So I wrote this a couple of months ago, so present, aka 20. And the summary is just a quick summary because I haven't written a lot of it. But after escaping an abusive relationship, a woman flees to a remote cabin in hopes of disposing the persona she's become. So Houses with Teeth is an interesting book because it's kind of fostered related, but it's not going to be. Like, I'm not going to write it at all about like the fostered like characters the way that they are. But this is the sentence that I've written. I'm not sure if it's going to stay the first sentence, but we'll just judge it based off of it. Sometimes on evenings away from him, I'd look at myself in the mirror and see two women back behind my eyes. I think it's an interesting first sentence. Okay, I didn't even remember. I'm going to put it here because I would keep reading. I could either put it here or here. Oh, I made this cover for this video, so I'm not sure if it's going to stay this way, but I think it looks kind of nice. I think out of the ones that I have at Genius Obvi, maybe Moth Works is my favorite line, or The Sun Only Drowns Us. And the one that I would want to revise the most, I don't know, maybe one of the dialogue ones, because while, I personally don't like the dialogue lines, I kind of want to see what would the first line have been had my character kind of started narrating at a different spot. Like, what would they have observed? Would it have been an observation? Would it have been a statement? I want to know. So I think I would revise either Perks and Drawbacks or The Treated. Maybe The Treated in particular, because that's such an interesting kind of sci-fi setting, So I would have loved to kind of see what the character would have picked up on had I not started it with dialogue. But thanks so much for watching, guys. This is really fun and casual for me to do. So if you want to see more videos like this, let me know. I think I might want to tier rank my short stories. I don't know. I think that might be fun. Or I could tier rank the last lines of every single novel I've written. Let me know in the comments, because funnily enough, I don't remember a lot of them. So that might be coming up next. But which one is your favorite out of the lines that I read? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye!